Welcome back, gang. It's Deltia from Deltiasgaming, and now StarfieldGuides.com, here with the video bringing you the latest PvP tier list for ESO Update 35 Lost Depths DLC. Why am I redoing this tier list? Because a lot has changed in the rankings, and I want to give you the information so you can make an educated decision based on my personal experience playing each and every one of these classes. What's the best, what's the worst, and why? Before we get to our video, I want to mention our sponsor here, Capital One Shopping. Biggest sponsorship and biggest giveaway we've ever had. Link in the description below. You click that link and it takes you to this screen right here. And we get installs from you, the viewer. Up to 1,000 installs equals one person can win up to $6,000 in cash, or an ultimate gaming PC and all the bells and whistles that go with it. So Capital One Shopping is a browser extension. You click this link and it'll tell you to install. You can add it to Google Chrome, Firefox, Edge, and Safari. And it saves you money buying things online, or applies coupon codes for you and or tells you where it's available cheaper or better at. Here's an example of me using it to buy this exact same Starfield shirt, which had applied a coupon code for me, $2.60 save. I didn't have to do anything, and it's absolutely free. So if you click that link below and you start installing, it will help me out and it will help you save time and money. Up to 1,000 of us get this installed. You're looking at one lucky winner of $6,000 or all the gaming PC you could ever hope for. Thanks. Before we get started in this video, make sure to hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe if you enjoyed this content, learned, or found this helpful. Let's get started with the tier list. But first, what's changed and why is that so important for the ranking? Meta changes. Well, a lot of gear has changes, which lowered overall DPS dramatically. And skills also increase survivability dramatically. So you end up with, frankly, a stalemate, very tanky meta. A new set called Mara's Balm was introduced, which makes everyone essentially a walking face-tanking god, giving health back every time a negative effect is removed or refreshed. Now, to be fair, this apparently is getting fixed, quote-unquote, on September 6th, but currently it has no internal cooldown. So it feels very reminiscent of completely overpowered defensive sets like Iron's Blood, Undertaker, and Hiss Sap. The important thing to note here is, if and when Mara's Balm gets changed, it's still going to remain a tank-heavy meta. And part of the reason why was the changes to dots. Let me explain. So if you're unfamiliar, Update 35 changed how damage over time effects work. Now damage over times will have essentially two forms, sticky and non-sticky, which affects the PvP and meta dramatically. Dragonknights, for instance, see two skills, Claw and Breath, both morphs, now last 24 seconds, and instead of ticking for damage every 1 second, like previous, now it's every 2. Every class was hit by this dot shift. Some more so that are dot dependent, like the Dragonknight. This hurt dramatically the dot pressure playstyle, making them or other classes shift into more raw damage setup and or proc sets that deal instant damage. Now you have more folks switching into high weapon and spell damage burst and or instant damage proc sets, so you avoid the Mara's Balm or the lackluster damage over time effects, and you'll see a dramatic increase in survivability for most players. So yes, the snooze fest 2H dizzying swing whambo bambo combo is back. And I'm one of them drones out there using it as well. Why? Look, it's probably the most and best effective way to play right now because it provides the most burst, and it feels like about a year ago when everyone was on a Stam Warden or Stam Necro spamming dizzying swing executioner combo. Next major change up before we get to the classes really quick is Resolving Vigor now gives minor resolve. That's 2,974 resistance on top of what most folks normally run, which is an armor buff. So it's not uncommon for most PvP builds right now to hit 30k resistances or higher, so the penetration stat, champion points, gear, weapons, and skills are very, very valuable in this current meta. And you're starting to see what's happening here. To be the most effective, you need to start playing stamina and or at least using stamina weapons and or abilities because they give you the greatest incentive in terms of burst damage and survivability. But there's another change for the dizzying swing scythe off-balance meathead playstyle out there, and that's the Exploiter champion point passive. You see, previously the champion points reduced a lot of the damage CP slottables, direct damage dots, single target, etc. They lowered them by about 4%. Then ZOS introduced the Exploiter, which increases damage against off-balance enemies up to 10%, thus giving more incentive to focus on off-balance, dizzying swing, whambo bambo. Again, the shifting current meta is back to the old glory days of Warden Necro, Balorgs, Clever Alchemist, chugging potions, slamming Dawnbreakers. But don't click off the video, I haven't told you everything yet. ZOS actually did do some good things. ZOS nerfed some of the overperforming and busted super powerful sets. That obnoxiously sweaty Savage Werewolf Stam Sork bow user, nerfed. Now Savage Werewolf will only proc off light attacks when you're in melee range instead of using light or heavy attacks at any range, and this set now ticks every 2 seconds instead of 1. AKA, it sucks now. You know those corrosive armor, molten whip Dragoknights heavy attack one-shotting you from stealth? Nerfed. Both Sergeant's Mail and Undaunted Infiltrator and Unweaver now were completely gutted. And unfortunately, the Living Dark Ironblood Magplar nerfed. Well, there goes my career as a Magplar. Ironblood. This set now grants major protection, major Aegis, and minor protection for 10 seconds when it's active. RIP. You know those hot pocket-eating basement-dwelling Nightblades, Chlorian Gankers? Nerfed. Well, that was a stealth nerf, didn't even put it in the patch notes, but that feels like about half the damage. And then we have Oakensoul. This was pretty much almost entirely gutted because all the really juicy major buffs now become minor. So it works for some, but not all. Essentially, the 5 most annoying playstyles in the history of Elder Scrolls Online are ripperoni. They introduced the Smarest Balm set, and even if it gets fixed, it's not going to fix the problem of damage over times not being as impactful as previously. So there's a different playstyle that really benefits for this. Now I'm going to go over each and every class now. I know this was a long intro, but you need to understand the context of why I'm making these choices, and that's really the nitty-gritty. Too long didn't read. There's more. Check the link on the website. Check the website! Deep breath. Let's go over the tier list, and for once in the history of my entire channel, no Templar is not S tier. First up, we have the Magicka Nightblade, good old Magicka Nightblade, in C- tier. I still have the poor Magicka Nightblade down here at C-. Here's what's changed with the class. Concealed Weapon, trying to make the melee hard-hitting Magblade a thing again, by giving a 10% damage boost coming out of stealth. Well, what ended up happening is people just slotting this ability rather than using it as their main spam, something like Destruction Clench from the Destruction Scaff skill line, or still sticking with Swallow Souls, Crushing Shock, or Elemental Weapon. The Magblade to me is a great 1v1 class for folks that love hanging out in Stormhaven without deodorant, flexing their duelist title. Impressive, broski. But do you see Magblades dominating Battlegrounds? Are there huge bombs in Cyrodiil anymore? Snooze! I don't see it. The Magblade used to have some awesome single target proc sets like Calorian to carry their burst. But now you run into the same issue. Single target dominant with nearly all of their attacks dodgeable. You have to have super high skill cap and timing to set up a stun and a 5 proc Assassin's Will, bang, and it's deadly. But the over-the-top buff management, total dependence on a 1 combo makes them lackluster in my opinion. Magblades do have incredible survivability and can be fun to play. Every time I end up logging into mine and doing my tier 1 Cyrodiil rewards, I end up face tanking about 10 people and not being able to kill a single one of them. And then I log out and switch to my Stram Dragonknight. More on that later. Next up, we get to another weak class, and it's the Magden, though it did see some improvements. The Magden re-ranks C tier just like previously. What's changed with the Magden, and why did I rank it here? Well, the Warden in general got a lot of juicy buffs, one specifically to Arctic Blast, which now scales off your highest offensive stat, and an AoE stun within 6 meters, which is massive for the class. Moreover, Birds of Prey now remove snares and immobilization, which adds to the movement speed. And let's be honest here, Frostins, you have the best fashion drip in ESO. Outside of that, it's the same old Magnum problem. You lack an identity for a main spammable. The current way to play a Magden, most effective playstyle, is dual wield spin to win with a vampire main spammable, which scales off of, wait for it, your max HP. But didn't you say Arctic Blast scales off of offensive stats? Yes, and there's the conundrum the class can't get over. This is a single target focus and locks you in a high HP Death Dealer's Fate or a max stat build, which really no one else is tied to. So you throw on a 2H, start using Dizzying Swing, or you start using Rapping Strikes as your man spammable, and you ask yourself, why am I playing Magicka Warden again? You shouldn't be. Stammed into update 35 is the way to go. Leave this to crafting and picking up flowers. Next up might be a shocker to you, but a complete reversal in this patch in terms of dominance, fun, usefulness, and effectiveness. That's my beloved Magplar. RIP 2.0. Magplar is not very good anymore, and I rank it C tier. See, I told you I'm Skip Bayless objective here. The Magplar in PvP is completely gutted, to be frank. I went from going 18-1 in sweaty battlegrounds to 1-4 with the exact same loadout, and here's why it sucks now. Nerf number 1, Puncturing Sweeps does 21% less damage and lasts for 0.8 seconds rather than 1. Noodle! Nerf number 2, Sweep Healing reduction by 33%. Nerf number 3, Purifying Light and reduction in healing by 12%. And the mother of God Nerf, you can get your shovels out and triggers ready. Burning Light, after dealing damage with any attack rather than an Adric Spear ability, reduce the damage of the proc by 33%. You do watch the videos, Zoss. And there you have it, one of my all-time favorite playstyles. Marvel superhero, fake natty, meathead, bubble dive bomb in, smash sweeps over and over and kill everyone and get a chicken wing afterwards. And now I'm either dead or sitting on my back bar, healing, running around for 95% of the match. You can still be effective on the Magplar, to be fair. I guess if you want to spam ranged abilities like Dark Flare, dodgeable, Destruction Clinch, dodgeable, Blazing Spear, telegraphed. Oh. I'm playing a Magplar? You sit there hunkering back, firing off missiles only to get bash, interrupt, dodge, frustrate until you log into your Mag Sorc and frag someone's face off. Look, the pros of the Templar, it's just super easy. It's very, very tanky with very little effort. You can click one or two abilities and be pretty good. And to be honest with you, you can still use it as a ranged Templar, but I just can't see that being that effective in the larger scale of dominating PvP, and it's a tier list. It's about domination. So for me right now, my Magplar is making one heck of a crafter. Moving on, and that's to the Stamplar in the start of the B tiers. Stamplar I put as B tier. It's ahead of the Magplar because it has, well, stamina, hard-hitting main spammables that do not require in-class abilities. Because similar to puncturing sweeps, jabs isn't that effective anymore. You can use the bow, 2H, and dual wield on a Stamplar and do great. Throw on Power of the Light or Purifying Light more for burst, and you got the Slambo Wambo combo down. So then why did I put it down here in B tier? Because it's probably the weakest to do the 2H D-swing combo. In fact, the best way to play the Stamplar now could probably be made at range, using Radiant Oppression, which got a big buff, an unblockable spear that can stun players, and Purifying Light at range for big, huge nukes. Maybe I'm stuck in the rear view like my dad. He said, Deltia back in the 70s, the Nebraska Cornhuskers were the best college football team around. Dad, this is 2022. Back when Deltia was using biting jabs in 2015, that sure hit hard. It's not 2015 anymore. Jabs is rip. We'll see you in 3 months. Next up, we got the Magic Necro in B tier. And this is one of my beloved classes and playstyles for a while, and I had to drop it back. The reason I dropped it back because Dark Convergence got a nerf now with a 25-second long cooldown, and Spirit Mender reduced the healing by 48% per tech. And objectively, the Macro just isn't nearly as strong as a Stamcrow now in any aspect. Bombing? Nope, my 1-bar Stamcrow still dominates. Dueling? Nope, my Battlelord Clever Sweaty Spaghetti Necro still works. Scythe spamming like a meathead? Nope, Stamcrow is better with Ruinous Scythe. Mobility? Nope, Stamina got that covered too. And you're left what my Magplar feels like. If all the strong abilities, skills, passives, CP, morph, gear, etc. are benefiting you from playing Stamina, why am I playing Magic? I made the switch to the Chad Scythe player, and I'm not afraid to admit it. Speaking of Chads, let's move on to the next class that got kind of a nerf, and that's the Stamina Nightblade. Stamina Nightblade I rank B+ tier. Stamblades still make a great dueling or 1vx class. The strengths are much better healing now than previous patches, but you'll see a massive reduction in burst via Oakensoul and Calorian's nerf. Both of them got adjusted, and it really feels the ganking is not incentivized in the current meta. Assassin's Blade, which is the execute, got a buff to incentivize people to stop using 2H execute. Dark Cloak got a very weird change, scaling off of max health, and also increasing your healing while standing still. That sounds like a really fun playstyle. And Surprise Attack no longer stuns, but sets off balance, just like another ability we've been talking about, Yawn, Dizzying Swing. Meanwhile, the Magicka Morph gives a whopping 10% increased damage that's not a major or minor buff coming out of stealth, thus you can stack Major, Minor Berserk on top of Concealed Weapon for a huge massive nuke. Now you end up with an oddish playstyle and a conundrum for the Nightblade. Yeah, I said conundrum, I went to college. Do I gank? Do I set up my magic ability on my bar and just use Dizzying Swing? Do I use Cloak and stand still and hope traffic isn't riding by? What proc set should I use? Should I play Dual Wield? What's my main spammable again? The strengths of the Nightblade right now are healing and survivability. It's incredibly high, but it also takes a high skill cap and can still be effective. But you're gonna feel the nerf to the gear sets, and weird changes of skill limit the class potential for the vast majority of ESO population. I think the Giga Chad Calorians players have moved on. Hey, I heard Call of Duty got an open beta. Moving on to the good old staple in ESO PvP, and that's the bunny hopping Magic Sorc. Magic Sorc I rank A- tier, and we gotta answer the most important question of this entire video. Why do Magic Sorc players constantly jump? To show our action per minute superiority, duh. Alright, moving on. I feel almost identical about the Mag Sorc from this patch to the last. The class changes really hit the crystal weapons the hardest, which were the stamina morph. The Magic Sorc still excels at mobility, range, and single target pressure. I haven't played my Oakensoul Mag Sorc 1-bar build and it felt really good, consistently going 15-0 in Battlegrounds. I have my Healing Bird pet that I enjoy, easy to obtain gear, but the lack of massive AoE and single target heavy focus turns me off. I still think Mag Sorcs will adapt and try different off-the-wall loadouts with Master Destruction Staff and do just fine. What would need to happen is more weapon choices and offensive scaling of all of the Magic Sorc's abilities to free the class from high magic playstyles, which I'm sure some will argue that can still work. Nothing to see new here in the opinion on the old Sorky Porky, exact same thing. Moving on to what I think is controversial, and that's ranking the Stamina Sorc ahead of the Mad Sorc. Yes, it got nerfed. Yes, it still works. You just have to use your big brain. The Stamina Sorc I rank as A tier. Deltia, did you just tell me Savage Werewolf was nerfed? Deltia, did you just tell me Crystal Weapons was nerfed? Yes, well then why for the love of Talos are Stam Sorcs number 4? Because if you didn't skip past the first 2 minutes of the video like a good YouTube ad watcher audience, you would have heard me say that the 2H Dizzying Swing OG Fang Rush Delta Force haircut build is back. Chug potions with Clever Alchemist, 500 Balord stack, and Dizzying Swing like you're dancing at a wedding. You'll be right on top of the world. The Bow Sorc build is actually still quite effective. You just have to change out the main spammable and some gear sets to run old proc sets like Unleash Taylor and Savara Scale. But running the exact same Rally Plague Break setup, I was extremely tanky, mobile, and hard-hitting. The downside of Stam Sorc is the sheer lack of burst healing that other classes provide. But Mara's Balm or his sap can be a solution, catapulting the build back into the top of the tier list. The passives and weapon choices are just too strong for the class. The Sorc's passives are just too strong. When one playstyle dies, you just swap to another. Bow's not meta? Great, slap on a 2H. That's not meta? Great, slap on a dual wield and do Ren. It doesn't matter. The Stam Sorc will always survive because the class passives and its abilities hit so hard and it has so much mobility. It's just a fun playstyle and will always be a thing in Elder Scrolls Online. Don't believe me? I've been playing since beta. Moving right along, and maybe the most controversial of all the placements, and that's the Magicka Dragonknight. Magicka Dragonknight, hold on before you get freak out and start downvoting the video. I rate as A tier. The biggest issue with the Magicka Dragonknight now is the extension of the damage over time effects and the changes to how that works. Now both Embers and Engulfing Flames last 24 seconds and tick every 2 seconds. That is an enormous amount of pressure removed. Plus the addition of Mara's Balm incentivizes you not to stack a million damage over time effects and static effects to your opponent, and you'll feed them survivability. Moreover, Whip costs half magic and half stamina. So you're going to run into the same problem as I expressed before. Dizzying Swing has great burst, costs stamina. Whip has great burst, but it costs half stamina, half magic. Engulfing Flame is garbage, but Noxious Breath is still good because it gives major breach. Dual Wield is still good because of spin and rapid strikes. If I don't use a lot of thought pressure outside of Noxious Breath and Flames of Oblivion, am I really a Magicka Dragonknight? And that's what I keep asking myself and start leaning more and more towards the Staminate Hybrid, which I think is the best way to play this patch considering DK pressure is nearly half of what it used to be. Well, why is it still A tier then? You have godlike survivability, sustain, AoE dot pressure. It's just the current meta has shifted back to lower dots high burst, which the Mag DK doesn't excel at in its current weapon choices. Until you respec your attributes, throw on a 2H or a dual wield, and then it really heats up. Moving on to one of my favorite new playstyles in a character and something I was unfamiliar with, sucked at, and absolutely love and think is a banger now, and that's the Stam Necro. Stam Necro A+ tier, ranking number 3rd. The TLDR on the Stam Crow is simply this. It probably got the least screwed over of all. It feels like it did about 3 to 4 patches ago, depending on 2H Dizzying Swing or Scythe. Balorg's clever, Essence Thief. And in that meta, in this one, it was exceptionally strong, tanky, and an utter beast on the battlefield. The major change was the Spirit Mender reducing the healing by 48% per tick. But now you'll have 2 extraordinary options for spammables, Dizzying Swing or Ruinous Scythe, which I consider the new jabs. It procs the Hemorrhage status effect, which can proc Occultal Overload and blowing up multiple people on the battlefield, and that's my new bomber. Stam Crow with Plague Break, Dark Convergence, and Caltrops. The main spammable heals you a lot, just like Puncturing Sweeps did. I'm not bitter or anything. And it sets off balance, which can be benefited from the Exploiter passive. And you have great group utility with nearly every ultimate being useful. Throw on top Resolving Vigor, getting minor resolve, giving an already dominant tanky class another solo buff, and you hit the sweet spot between burst, resources, tankiness, solo, and a group. What holds it back from being S tier is lack of mobility and a very predictable playstyle. If you've ever been in a tower when a 500 Balorg Necro DB hits you, you'll know exactly why they're in the A tier, and you should be great going forward. Now we have the first class in S tier, and one that I've been hypercritical of recently. It's in an absolute different stratosphere as it has been in the past, and that's Lord Warden, the Stamina Warden. The Stamina Warden I rank as S tier. Lord Warden, aid me! This is a dramatic increase. As the Magplar moves back, the Warden moves up, and let me explain why. The Falcon Swiftness, this is the base morph of birds, now grants 4 seconds of snares and immobilization immunity when activating. No longer are you dependent on good old Siege order. So if you hate getting that unlocked or you hate buying it from the Crown Store, this is your class. Arctic Wind, the Arctic Blast morph, the biggest change. Increase the duration to 20 seconds up from 10, and increase the damage per tick by 9%. This morph now stuns once immediately upon casting. Also causes the initial heal to scale off your highest offensive stats rather than max health, and increases the applying of a status effect by 15% up from 1 per tick. Wow, huge change. More status effect, big massive AoE on-demand stun, and almost solves the Warden's problems entirely in one ability change. A change to Deep Fissure, unfortunately though, was it deals damage 3 and 9 seconds, so that's not nearly as bursty, but you still get major and minor breach. With the Warden now, it got better mobility and the removal of snares without Sigic Order. With Arctic Blast, you have an on-demand stun that provides great counterplay and heals you significantly. Now you throw on Resolving Vigor and get your armor buff, and you have almost 10,000 more armor with minor protection active, along with minor Berserk on your front bar. Throw on Sea Serpent's Coil and you get major Berserk and major Courage, along with Rallying Cry or Maurer's Balm on the back bar, and you're an absolute walking single-target AoE juggernaut that seems unkillable. No, it's not a hack. This is how and why you'll see so many Wardens come back. I've loved the class, I just didn't like the healing or heal stacking playstyle and would die constantly or be forced to backbar 3 skills that heal me, and I'd relog, get on my Dragonknight, and go have fun. Well, what's the downside of the Warden? It's still not the best when it comes to resource sustain, especially if you want to use Vampire. Sure, you can make it work, but the reliance on a lot of magic abilities for mobility and survivability limit in that regard. And the class ultimates aren't nearly as strong as a Dragonknight or the Necro, but with the right combo you can fill in the gaps outside weapon skill lines. Moving on to my current favorite build and what I believe is the strongest and what I've been playing pretty much for the past year on and off both EU and NA PC mega servers, and that's the Stamina Dragonknight, which I think is the top of the pool in S+ tier. Stamina Dragonknight, S+. Deltia, not objective here. You put the classes that you love and play on stream in S tier. Well, maybe that's true, but this isn't a PhD dissertation here. I can barely read. That's why I'm a streamer. Let's do a thought experiment. If I were to lay out for you in a tank meta in PvP what classes and playstyle would be dominant, what do you think would be the most dominant? Let's find out. One class has 100% penetration on demand with their ultimate for direct damage for 12 seconds. Well, that sounds pretty good if everyone has 30,000 resistances. One class has the highest tooltip ultimate for damage. Sounds pretty good if everyone's a tank. One class has built-in major breach, minor brutality, and major defile? Wow, sounds pretty overpowered to me. What about a class that has the best overall crowd control and burst healing? Yeah, that sounds like it could be useful when everyone's holding block and tanking. Admittedly, I play an off-meta Stam DK build, dual wield on the front and ice staff on the back. But I think the play here is the 2H Dizzying Swede, Sea Serpent carries your damage. Mar or Rallying Cry in the back bar carries your survivability, and bang, Clever Alchemist for the ultimate Wambo Bambo Rambo combo. And you're no longer dependent on dots and pressure unlike the Mag DK. The bread and butter of the Dragonknight has been and will always be Battle Roar passive and corrosive armor. Well, until Zoss watches this video and nerfs that too. But don't unsubscribe to the channel, please. So they remain on top. The shift away from dots just means you need to build towards raw damage and lean on corrosive armor to kill tanky targets while being an indomitable force yourself. Dragonknight hits the sweet spot between mobility, utility, burst, single target, AoE, and crazy survivability. Now you have a hybrid or a Stam Dragonknight on top of the PvP meta, well, at least for 3 months when everything changes again. Well, gang, that's the video. Thank you for making it all the way to the end. If you got something out of this, please click that like, subscribe, do all of those things. Also consider checking me out on twitch.tv/Deltiasgaming. And check out my new channel, starfieldguides.com. As you see me wearing this shirt, I'll be covering Starfield guides in the future on a different channel so it doesn't confuse this one. So if you could look in the link in the description below, click a subscribe on that. That would really help me out when that game launches in 2023. Also, I know I'm doing a lot of shout outs here, but check my website, Deltiasgaming.com. I have all the PvP builds updated. I continue to update them as we learn and find out more about the metas and things shift. You're always going to be able to come back there for the latest and greatest PvP builds. Until next time, thanks for watching.